Hello, hello, and welcome to the stream. My name is Tyler Griffiths. If you're new here, this is tizoguitar. This channel is all about learning guitar, but with a special focus on R&B music. So, if that's what you're into, I strongly suggest go ahead and clicking at that subscribe button and the little notification bell. That way you know whenever I go live like this. For reference, today or Saturdays at 12 p.m. Eastern, as well as Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern is when I typically stream on the channel. So we're glad to have you. As you can see, for today's lesson, we're going to be going over triads. So many of us might not even be aware of what they are or how we use them. So we're going to start from the very basics. I want you to go ahead and grab your guitar because we are going to need it for this lesson. And as well, if you get any value out of this lesson, please remember to hit that little like button, comment, share, subscribe, do all the fun stuff that makes the algorithm boost the channel so more people can learn just like yourself. All right, excuse me. All right, let's get right to it. So triads, right? But very simply, triads are like the most basic chords that we can come across as guitarists, or even as any kind of instrument player. What a triad is it's basically a group of 3 notes. That's where the tri comes from, like tricycle. Tri means 3. So we have 3 notes, and every chord at its base level has at least 3 notes. And so with a triad, what we're doing is we are kind of just boiling down our chords to the most essential part. Now, why do we want to do this? That's the question, right? When you are playing, let's go back to camera 1. When we're playing by ourselves, it sounds very good when we're playing our very full chords, right? Our full G major, C major, D major, all that. As we're playing in our room or just doing like the singer-songwriter thing, it's great because the chords kind of fill in a lot of the, what we call the frequency spectrum. So we're getting some low notes, we're getting some high notes, some middle notes, and everything sounds great. Now, the only problem is when you are in the context of a full band, maybe you have a piano player, which piano covers the full range of the frequency spectrum as well, but piano, bass player, you got drums, you have horns, whatever it is, whatever your situation happens to be, it becomes a lot more important for each instrument to kind of find its space in the mix. So you can't have every instrument playing the full spectrum. It'll just sound really muddy and unpleasant, okay? So what we're gonna do is by playing triads, we're actually just taking away some of that extra stuff. So instead of playing this full C major chord, C major open chord, right? We would just boil it down to something very simple where it's just the triad, right? So instead of this, whoop, you have just this. Doesn't sound all that different, right? It still has the character of a C major chord. It's just we're playing a little bit less. And so all these notes up here, those 2 notes don't have to fight with the bass player or the keys player or whatever it is for that space in the mix. We're kind of just picking our own spot as the guitarist to play more of the higher register or the mid-high to high register of what's going on. Okay, so actually how do we break this stuff down, right? So we got a few shapes that I want to show you. We're just going to be sticking with major triads today, all right? So I'm going to pull this up. There we go. Okay, so by string set 1, I just mean the G string, B string, and the high E string, okay? So those are the 3 strings we're going to be dealing with today. And I'm going to show you how we want to go about practicing this. But first, let's play a C major using that root position, okay? So the C major, what you'd have to do is, I like to play it with my ring finger, pinky, and index. So I make this shape, and I have my ring finger is going to be on the 5th fret of the G string. My pinky is going to be right next to it on the B string, fret 5. And my index finger is going to be holding down the 3rd fret of the high E string. Go ahead and give that a try. And that is your C major root position triad. So it's still a C major chord. In any song that you know chords for, you can always substitute the triad in there if you want to just boil it down to just the essential parts of getting that sound of that chord, and then also leave room for the other instruments. So that's our root position C major. If we want to play the first inversion, and what an inversion is, it's just taking the notes and rearranging the order. So the notes of a C major chord are C, E, and G. If you're in root position, it's always going to go in the order of root, third, and fifth. Don't worry about what those are just yet, but they are basically intervals. And as you can see below, there's kind of a color coding thing going on where we have red dot, blue dot, and black dot. So the red dot would be your root note, which in our case would be C. The blue dot is going to be your third, which is an interval, and that's going to be the note E. And then that last note on the black dots are going to be the fifth. So we have this position of 1, 3, 5, or this formula of 1, 3, 5 that gives us a major chord. And when you play a full major chord, like a open C chord, for instance, you're still playing the notes C, E, and G. It's just some of those notes are repeating. So whenever you play a C major chord, you're always playing some combination of C, E, and G. All the notes will be present. Some of the notes will be played more than once, but that's the bare bones right there. C, E, G is that C major triad. Okay, so whenever you do an inversion, basically we're taking one of the notes and just shifting it over. So instead of it going from lowest pitch to highest pitch, being the root, the third, and the fifth, C, E, G, we can make it so that maybe the E is the lowest note, and that would be the first inversion. So that would be down, I like to play this by barring the 8th fret on the B and high E strings, and then I put my middle finger on the 9th fret of the G string. All right, so it sounds a little bit different from, but it's still a C major chord. All right, and that would be the first inversion, so that would be the note E, G, and then C would be on the bottom. So whenever the chord starts with the lowest note being the third instead of the root, you have what's called first inversion. Still a C major though. All right, so the next chord, or the next inversion, is the second inversion. And so all we do is we shift that note once more. So now we have the G as the lowest note, and we have C followed by E. And that would happen way up here on fret 1. So all you have to do is put your index finger on fret 1 of the B string, and you've already played that second inversion. Just play the bottom, play the open G string and the open high E string. And that second inversion, because it goes G, C, E. Other words, it would be the fifth, the root, and the third. Okay, so all three of those, whether you're playing root position, first inversion, or second inversion, are equally acceptable for using in place of these full chord shapes. Okay, so it actually becomes very handy to know these shapes all over the fretboard. I recommend just starting with string set 1, or basically those bottom 3 strings. And the pattern that I use is I follow something called the circle of fourths. So the way I would do it, the way it works, if you think about the letters or the numbers on a clock, you have, at 12 o'clock, you have C. So you would start and you would find all the C major positions. In order to do this effectively, you have to know where those root notes are and be able to plug the shapes in. But after you play all the C major, you would go to the next note on the circle of fourths, which would be F. And so I would play F, then I would go to the next note over and over. And what this does, if you're following the circle of fourths or the circle of fifths, and there's plenty of like free resources about this. If you just Google circle of fifths and look for the images, you'll see it. It just gives you a way of making sure you're practicing in all 12 keys or with all 12 root notes. And that way, gradually you're learning where all of these things are. So maybe if you're playing down here, you can grab the C major that's closest. So if you know you're playing down here and you want to play some C chords, grab that first inversion. If you know you're down here, grab the second. That kind of thing. So it all plays into knowing your way around the fretboard, and then also finding ways to get the point across with your chords without muddying up the mix or taking the spot of someone else that you're playing with. Once again, if you're playing by yourself, it's fine. Use the full chords. Nothing wrong with that. But when you start thinking, if you're someone who aspires to be on stage and play with others, because that's like half the fun, I feel, you definitely want to start paying attention to, okay, I have to, as the guitarist, I have to pick my spot, and usually it's going to be in the mids, upper mids, high range of the frequency spectrum. So you want to drop out those lower notes if you can. All right, so I'm going to take you through, we'll just do a few examples of finding some of the notes on the circle of fourths, or using the circle of fourths to find our triads. So once again, C major, root position. It's going to be ring finger on the G string, fret 5. Pinky is going to be on the B string, fret 5. And index finger is going to be on the high E string, fret 3. All right, that's our root position C major chord. And because you can see that red dot is on the G string, wherever you move that shape, the note that that red dot is in the position of, that's going to be the name. So right here, if I have my ring finger on fret 9, I'm going to be playing an E major triad. Okay? Versus that. So you can tell you really have to remember where your notes are, all right? But for that C major, also for the first inversion shape, you bar with your index finger on the 8th fret of the B and high E strings. And then you put your middle finger on the 9th fret of the G string. Okay? And then our second inversion is the easiest one. Excuse me. You would have the open G string. You can put your index finger on the 1st fret of the B string. And then you can have the open high E string. All right, that's another C major triad. Let's try F. So for F, you can do the first inversion by barring the first fret of the B and high E strings. And then you can put your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. All right. Then you can go ahead and play the second inversion shape right here, where index finger is on the 5th fret of the G string. Ring finger is on the 6th fret of the B string. And middle finger is on the 5th fret of the high E. That is also an F major. Or you could bar all the way across those bottom 3 and put your middle finger down on the 6th fret. However you see fit. This way is kind of what we might be used to from playing D major open chord. So I figured we can use that fingering for now. Okay, and then finally our root position, F major triad, it'd be ring finger on the 10th fret of the G string, pinky on the 10th fret of the B string, and index finger on the 8th fret of the high E. And that would be an F major root position triad. Okay, and then let's do one more. The next one on the circle of fourths would be B flat. So to do B flat, you can do root position up here, ring finger on the G string, fret 3, pinky on the B string, fret 3, index finger on the high E string, fret 1. First inversion would be down on this fret 6. So you would bar fret 6 of the B and high E strings with your index. And then middle finger would go onto fret 7 of the G string. That's your first inversion, B flat major. And then the second inversion would be down here. You would either bar or you could do index finger on the 10th fret of the G string. You could do ring finger on the 11th fret of the B string. And then you could do middle finger on the 10th fret of the high E string. And that is your B flat major second inversion. Okay, so let's look at some actual practical applications that we could do here. So if we were to play, let's say a 1-4-5 progression. Put that down. A 1-4-5 progression in the key of G major. So that would be the chords G major, C major, which you can play like this, and D major. Or I would play it like this. to do the triad form of that, you would just take this first inversion G major. So index finger is barring the B and high E strings on fret 3. Middle finger is on the G string fret 4. That covers your G major. Then you do root position for the C major, which we learned earlier. And then for D major, you would just slide that down 2 frets. So now instead of playing, you would instead play. So it still sounds like the same character of that major chord progression, but now it's taking up a lot less space in the mix. Okay, and so my challenge to you would be to take these shapes and basically apply them to the major chord that you already know and try to figure out how to play those major chords in those 3 different spots along the neck. After fret 12, everything repeats. So if a first inversion C major is up here on fret 1, then it'll be also down here at fret 12. Okay, so after fret 12 it goes down. But what I would recommend is finding out where those shapes are, and I'll pull them back up one more time. Finding out where those shapes are, and then applying them to all the major chords you know. So if you know G major, try to find those G major triads as well. Same thing for C major, D major, all the open chords that we already know and that we use a lot as guitarists. Learn those triad shapes. And then what you'll find is there'll be, there's more than one string set for that. So sometimes you'll have triads on the D, G, and B strings. Sometimes they'll be on the A, D, and G strings, whatever it is. But I would stick to at least learning my major triads on just that string set 1, just those bottom 3 for now. Learn all the major chords you can and all the different spots that you can find them, and then start moving on to other string sets. It may not seem like it's very useful just yet, but as you get into positions where you are playing with others, you're gonna find that yes, playing those triads instead of playing those full chords will still sound just as good in the mix with others, and you won't have to worry so much about stepping on people's toes. So that is all I have for you this week. That is our intro to triads. In future lessons, I will show kind of some more advanced progressions and stuff that make use of triads, as well as kind of how we use them in an R&B context. But we can't use them unless we know them first. So I want you guys to get started with just that string set 1. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comment section below. Oops, drop the drumstick. Go ahead and leave them in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to get to them as soon as I can. Also, if this concept or these concepts are just way above your head and you're not really sure where to start with it, if you are looking for someone to kind of come alongside you in your guitar journey and kind of show you the ropes and get you to the point where this stuff is making sense, I do offer private lessons on Zoom. So if you're interested in lessons, go ahead and drop an email to tizoguitar@gmail.com. Tizoguitar, just like the channel name, at tizoguitar, and I will get right back to you as soon as I can with some information. Anything else that we should cover before? I will be back here Tuesday at 8 p.m. That's the plan. We'll be going over another song tutorial. So the way it kind of works is Tuesdays I leave for song lessons, and then Saturdays are more general lessons that apply to many different genres of guitar. But Tuesdays more of like the R&B, learn a song, and Saturdays are more like techniques and music theory. So thank you guys for watching. I will catch you next time. Enjoy your week, and definitely don't forget to come back Tuesday. All right, take care.